Sai Ram, Sai Ram. A prayer to Swami. Dear Swami, we are so grateful to be able to meet here together in your presence today. While we are here together studying your word in your Bhagavata Vahini, we ask that you open our ears and hearts to whatever it is you want us to learn. Please speak through each one of us and help us progress in our spiritual journey. Jai Sai Ram. Sai Ram. Just a little reminder to mute your cell phones if you have not already done so. Let's talk from the heart and ask the questions that arise. And let's always be mindful of the way we speak and what we speak about. So let's try to leave our egos outside of this bhajan all. That's the best way to be able to learn. And from Swami's messages, that's what I meant to say. And just a little review from last session. I know we had a very intense discussion on the significance of Gayatri Mantra based off of Swami's quote. He had described what is the meaning per word and the essence of the Gayatri Mantra. From Bhur Bhuva Suvaha, we talked about vibration and radiation. We talked about cultivating wisdom, how Gayatri Mantra actually transcends time, and how the wisdom, the real wisdom, is to know the self, and how it is different from intelligence. We talked about that, and then we moved along to the concept of oneness, and how unity how Gayatri Mantra reflects the unity that is in everything. And seeing this unity, what do we gain from seeing that unity? We talked about controlling our emotions and then changing the world with our own views because of the chanting of the Gayatri. That is the real power of mantra chanting. Anyone has anything to add? All right. So today we are going to go ahead and start with the next chapter, chapter 17. The next few sessions, I am hoping to complete these chapters one after the other because we have 42 chapters to go to. And this is, I'm trying to get through mm, Parikshit's stories so that we can get to when Sage Sukha comes in. And again, we will go back into talking and reflecting on each of those values that Swami has always portrayed. But with that, we will also be completing our Bhagavat Vahini chapters as we go along. So today, we'll be starting with chapter 17. Sairam.
Bhagavatha Vahini, Chapter 17, Recalling the Bygone Days. Emperor Parikshit journeyed in state over the entire Indian continent, acquainting himself with the administrative excellence of the rule of his grandfathers, with the unique relationship which they had established
For everyone who's online, I'm sorry, we just have a little sound glitch. Have it on the right. Okay. Oh, you are? Okay. Okay, then it should be okay. Maybe it's going only through the speaker. No, it was coming. Yeah, it was coming through the speaker. At least in the room, it's not coming through the. Okay, anyway, it continues like that. Okay. If she's hearing it, that's fine. That is the only. You increase the volume. Yeah, yeah.
Bhagavatha Vahini, Chapter 17, Recalling the Bygone Days. Emperor Parikshit journeyed in state over the entire Indian continent, acquainting himself with the administrative excellence of the rule of his grandfathers, with the unique relationship which they had established between themselves and the Lord, who had then come down on earth as man, listening to the experiences of many a saint and scholar who lived in those halcyon days, and reflecting on those cheering memories as he travelled along. Often he was overcome with remorse at the thought that he was not alive during those days when the grandparents were in such heavenly bliss. While thus immersed in the joy of recollecting the annals of his forefathers and the glory of those bygone days with Krishna, Vyasa, the great sage, appeared before him quite unexpectedly. He welcomed him with great honor and seated him on an elevated seat. The sage praised the rule of Parikshit and said that he was reminded of the reign of the Pandavas. The young king listened reverentially to his talk. After some time, Vyasa said, "Son, I must go now." But Parikshit said, "O master, it is like placing a dish of delicacies before a starving man and just when he is about to stretch his hands towards it, dragging it away from his grasp. Your accounts of the adventures of my grandfathers and of the splendor of Sri Krishna are like the most precious gems spread out before me, but you caused the most painful disappointment to me by refusing to let me have them. Your leaving me just now makes me feel desperately sorry. He pleaded with the sage to stay a little longer. Tell me on what mission you have come. Be with me for some more time and assuage the hunger that is gnawing me. I miss the great good fortune that my grandparents had to spend their lives with the Lord Himself. I shall save myself from decline, at least by listening to their exploits and their devotion which drew upon them the Lord's grace. Seeing the king, who prayed in great earnestness and humility, Vyasa said, Son, do not feel that you are in any way inferior or less endowed with good fortune. I declare, no one else had such good fortune as you earned, for you drew upon yourself the grace of the Lord the moment you were born. The Lord Vasudeva gave you the breath of life. He raised you in His arms and played with you while you were yet a baby. You two stuck to Him so close that you scarce kept aloof. Your youngest grandfather, Sahadeva, had to pluck you by force from Krishna and hand you over to the women in the inner halls. You were named ceremonially by Vasudeva himself. What a memorable scene it was. You showed us that you were a wonderful child. You followed with your eyes the Lord, wherever He moved, whichever side He turned. You were intent on pariksha, that is, finding out where He was, as no one else was in that hall that day. Krishna hid himself very cleverly behind pillars and tried various means of diverting your attention away from Him. But you proved too clever even for Him. Your eyes were searching for Him alone. They saw only Him and His splendid form. All of us who were then present were wonderstruck at your devotion and concentration. It appeared as if you were examining each face and trying to find out whether it was Krishna's. Your face fell when you saw it was not. It blossomed when your eyes saw Him and Him only. Scholars and simple folks, Rats and Rajas, realized that you were a remarkable child. That is the reason why, when your grandfather, Dharmaraja, prayed to him to give you an appropriate name, he named you after your strange behavior, Parikshit, that is, he who examines, he who tries to find out. When the Lord announced this name to Dharmaraja, in the hearing of that vast gathering of courtiers and scholars and sages, they all applauded, saying, Very apt, excellent, fine. Being so richly favored by fortune, you should not condemn yourself as unlucky. You were fondled by the Lord. He played with you and watched your gambols. He gave you your name. How few earn this fortune. Do not consider these just common gifts of grace. Tears of joy welled from the eyes of Parikshit at these words. He had a question rising up from his throat, but Vyasa saw him swallowing it, and so he patted him on the shoulder and encouraged him to ask it. Son, it looks as if you desire to put some query to me. Ask without hesitation, do not quail. Taking courage from this prompting, Parikshit said, O worthy master, man cannot know the value of either joy or grief unless he is aware of them. The joyful contacts of which you spoke now were awarded me when I was scarcely aware of the bliss inherent in them. Real joy can be tasted only when one is conscious of its value. If a child is given a 1 billion rupee diamond, it will only deal with it as a lump of glass. The happiness of being with the Lord, which you saw I had in my childhood, is as ineffective as the joy experienced in the past births. I did not know then what precious moments they were. Had I known it, were I capable of knowing it, I could have treasured that joy forever. Now it is all mere inference. I have no ocular proof of the grace of the Lord which I received then. So I depend now on auricular proof only. So please tell me of the greatness and glory of Krishna. Let my ears drink the nectar of those stories. Vyasa was moved by his entreaty. He agreed. Son, do you consider his leelas to be just one or two? How can I relate to you his leelas which are beyond one's capacity to enumerate? So, ask about what he did in connection with some particular person or during some particular incident or situation. I shall gladly tell you all the details. Parikshit was elated at this. He begged him with folded hands. Master, tell me how this great attachment between my grandfathers and Lord Krishna was born. Vyasa burst into laughter. Dear son, your earnestness surprises me much, for only such earnest individuals can get jnana. I am delighted that you have this deep yearning. So, I shall tell you what you asked for. Listen. Saying this, Vyasa made himself comfortable in his seat. Parikshit too got ready to hear, with a heart that was blossoming with joy, and ears that widened in the ambition to learn. Son, King Drupada grew anxious to give his only daughter in marriage to a suitable groom, but could not succeed in securing one, in spite of the best diligent search. So he announced a Swayamvara, that is a festival for choice of bridegroom. Kings of great might and majesty assembled in his capital, along with scholars endowed with charming personality, all eager to wed the princess whose beauty was unexcelled in the three worlds. They were all proud of their wealth and valor, for they felt they could win her by those attainments. In that assembly hall, the king had fixed a contrivance on a pillar. It was a wheel revolving fast, a wheel that was reflected in a sheet of water below the pillar on which it turned. The wheel had a fish tied on it. The competitors for the hand of the princess were asked, one by one, and drawing the bow while looking at the reflection, shoot at the fish target up above. Drupada announced his intention to give away his daughter in marriage to whomsoever hit the target, so prepared. The city was full of princes and kings who had arrived to try their hands at this unique festival of bowmanship. News of this festival reached the ears of your grandfathers, who had then assumed the role of Brahmins, in order to mislead the wily Kauravas. They felt at first that they should not come out in the open on that occasion, but Arjuna, your grandfather, was able to persuade his brothers to attend the festival of valor, for, as he said, no Kshatriya should stay away when bowmen compete for a worthy prize. Thus, it happened that the five brothers sat among the assembly in the garb of Brahmins, like a group of lions casting a halo of heroism around. All the eyes were drawn towards the place where they sat. People commented on their presence, many in admiration, some in derision. Some praised them as champions, some laughed at them as prize fighters or guards. The whispers aroused by them spread all around. Lord Krishna had come for that festival. His eyes were fixed on Arjuna all the time. This was noticed by his brother Balarama, who spoke something to his brother. At last, the Swayamvara contest began. One by one, the candidates proceeded to the shadow seen in the water and aimed the arrow at the fish rotating above. They failed and returned pale with humiliation. They walked back to their seats, heavy with disappointment and shame, and sat sunk in sorrow. Krishna had no intention to rise and have a try at the target, for he sat quiet in his own place. If he had that intention, he could have quite easily hit the fish and won. But who can gauge the depths of his mind? Just then, Arjuna rose and proceeded towards the contrivance, casting a lightning flash of brilliance over the assembly by the heroic aura of his personality. Draupadi, the princess, lifted her head and watched him in admiration. Her mind merged in that flash of light. In an instant, Arjuna's arrow split the fish and he won. The applause of the gathering rose to the skies. The princess came forward and wedded him, placing a garland of flowers around his neck and holding his hand. When Arjuna emerged from the hall, holding the hand of the bride, the horde of defeated kings and princes yelled that the rules of the contest were broken, since a Brahmin who had no right to compete in bowmanship was allowed to participate and declared the winner. They fell on her grandfather in an angry clump. But Bhima pulled out a huge tree by its roots and whirled it at the crowd of foiled kings. Observing the fight between the disappointed groups of suitors and the Pandava brothers, Krishna and Balarama were smiling within themselves in appreciation of the successful feat of Arjuna. Your grandfathers had no knowledge who they were. They had not seen them any time previously. But when the Pandavas reached their residence, the humble home of a potter, with the newly won bride, the daughter of Drupada, and when Dharmaraja, the eldest brother, was describing with great exultation the events of the day, Balarama and Krishna, dressed in yellow silk and magnificent to behold, entered that lowly cottage. They fell at the feet of aged Kunti, mother of your grandfathers. Auntie, we are your nephews, they said. We are the children of Nanda and Yashoda. They introduced themselves. Then they touched the feet of Dharmaraja, prostrating themselves before him. Krishna approached Arjuna and drew him aside with a sweet simple expression of affection. I know you, but you do not know me. I am seeing you now for the very first time. I am the son of Vasudeva. My name is Sri Krishna. I am younger than you are. Still, when you achieved that victory in the royal palace, I recognized that you are the Pandava brothers, and so I understood that you had escaped from the palace of wax, wherein you were when it was set on fire. From the moment my eyes fell on you at the gathering of the suitors there, I somehow felt that you are Arjuna. I told my brother so. This is my brother Balarama. I was very happy that I recognized you, and my brother too shared the joy. At last I am able to meet you. The bride, Draupadi, is the embodiment of virtue and intelligence. Speaking thus, Krishna called Arjuna to a distance and whispered in his ear, Cousin, it is not advisable that you come out in the open so soon. Stay on in disguise for short periods in one place or another for some more time. Then he took leave of his aunt and others and left with his elder brother Balarama. From that day, the affection between Krishna and Arjuna grew more and more intense. It grew into a huge tree and yielded fruits rich with sweetness, which they shared. In that sweetness, their minds merged and became one. Mark the first time your grandfather met the Lord Krishna. He was at the wedding hall of Draupadi, the Kalyana Mandapa. The significance of this lies in the fact that they two were bound throughout the years in bonds of love and affection, of unfailing friendship. To consummate that friendship, Krishna taught him the highest wisdom. Did you note how chummy that consummate trickster was with your grandfather? With that question, Vyasa rose and collected his things in an attempt to depart. Observing this, Parikshit pleaded piteously, wiping the tears of joy that filled his eyes. Master, you have made the Lord stand before me, with your description of his leelas and his grace. Please, please tell me more of the many occasions on which the Lord showered his mercy on my grandfathers, how he moved close with them and rescued them from calamity. Sleep is deserting my eyes and prompting me to listen to the stories of the God. Make this night holy by relating to me the glory of the Lord. That alone can give me satisfaction, O Lord. Let me spend the night in his thoughts. Well, your silence is causing me great agony. Vyasa saw the steadfastness and devotion of Parikshit and changed his decision. He said, Son, if the mighty miracles of Krishna were one or two in number, I could have described them to you. If one had 1,000,000,000 tongues and whole of eternity before him, description of his mighty can never be exhausted. All the gods bowed before him with folded hands. Sometimes he would raise his bhaktas to the skies, and sometimes very soon he will drag them down into the depths. He treated the world as a puppet show. He was always radiant with his smile. He never knew anxiety, disappointment, or distress. He behaved sometimes like common man, sometimes as an innocent child, at other times as a near kinsman, or as an intimate friend, or as a masterful monarch. And sometimes he even behaved as a playful cowherd boy. He had the capacity and cleverness to play all roles with unique distinction. He loved your grandfather Arjuna with special fervor. He used to take him with him whatever the occasion or place. Why, Arjuna could move about freely even in the inner apartments of the residence of the Lord. The Lord used to play with your grandfather in the waters of the Yamuna, diving at one place and rising at a distant spot to surprise him, calling on him to do likewise if he could, competing with him in various games which defy description and identification. All of a sudden, he would take Arjuna to a solitary place and converse with him there of some mysteries. He used to often discard the smooth silken bed and sleep with his head on Arjuna's lap instead. Your grandfather too reciprocated that love to the full. Though sometimes they were found angry against each other, talking as if they were enraged, they made up very soon and resumed friendly conversation quickly. My dear son, it can be said that they were like Nara and Narayana, like the body and the breath. There was no Arjuna without Krishna, and no Krishna without Arjuna. There was no secret which your grandfather did not share with Krishna, or which Krishna did not share with your grandfather. Which particular episode in their relationship am I to tell you now? Ask me any one which you would like to hear, and I shall gladly relate it to you.
Okay, Sairam, that was chapter 17. And
Bhagavata
oh,
Vahini.
sorry. Because there is next chapter after that. So that's why it will start. So let me go back to our discussion questions. And I don't have too many questions on this because we do need to go over the chapter. So one was about how do we recognize the divine grace manifest in our own lives? Of course, Krishna Parikshit did not experience the physical form of Krishna, just like a lot of stories that we hear about Swamis, devotees who had not really experienced him in person when he was there. And a lot of those things reminded me of the various stories that we hear coming through. So how do we recognize that divine manifestation too, right? And I guess that is something that we should always be aware. Just because Krishna is not there today doesn't mean that we are not uh, experiencing it. We experience divine grace at all times. So that was one. And then just moved along about qualities of friendship that are truly spiritual, and how can we cultivate such relationships, because Krishna and Arjuna were as close as body and breath. That's what Swami says. And moving, I mean, these are just regular, how do we interpret divine actions, because they are so unpredictable. And since Krishna's actions were not explainable at all times, that is one thing. And how can we develop and sustain a sincere yearning? Because obviously Parikshit had the steadfastness, like Vyasa said. And those are a few things that I think we can discuss. And basically coming down again, the rest of the questions are just based off of all the challenges that come in our lives. So coming back to the first one, what I think is, how does how do we recognize this divine grace manifesting in our lives every day? I mean, it's not just one day. I think there is many times that we do experience it. Can you recognize it, or something special has to happen for us to recognize?
Sairam,
Right.
I don't think anything special needs to happen. We have to just keep our eyes and ears open, and we see such a miracle. Everything is a miracle, if you want to call it a miracle, or everything is divine. So we can see the divinity, only we have to look at it from that angle. If we just ignore it as it's mere coincidence or something matter of fact, it's material, then obviously you're missing the point. That's what it is. So we do experience every day. Only thing is we have to be aware of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Saira, I think we do have the divine grace every day. We go to bed and get up the next morning, right? So there itself, and we are pretty sure about it that I will get up next morning. But the divine grace is there for that to materialize. Like that, every day, whatever we are getting, that is divine grace. That's a prasada buddhi that we have to develop. Whatever is coming, it is good for me. That kind of an attitude. Take it as a divine grace, good or bad. Like you go to a temple, the priest give you a fruit. It could be a grapes or banana. You don't say, oh, I don't eat banana, I don't eat grape, give me something else. Why do we ask then, God, give me this, give me that? Whatever comes, we just look at it as, it's a divine grace. It's good for me. In that attitude, I think life would be easier. Personally, I have felt few times, came very close and got involved in accidents, car accidents. One Swami prevented before I hit the car.
Yeah.
3 lanes across, the child was sitting. I still remember vividly. That happened many, many years ago. The other one also, the car hit me, but I was absolutely fine. Nothing happened. I shared that experience also in the Sai Center. So those are like special moments. And that we got the Amritam when my son was in the hospital from Swami's picture. So I can name few incidents that, it clearly shows it is divine grace. I'm sure all of you have something or the other to share. So just to take every day as a divine grace. We are breathing, we are standing, vertical, right? Not horizontal. That itself is divine grace.
Yeah, Sairam, thank you.
Sarah.
Silent.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like see, we don't recognize the divine's grace because we always try to play the game outside our boundaries, which is like if you play the game within the boundaries or the court or the ground, you will be really feeling the winning of that, like really playing it. Because we all consider outside the ground in the sense like I feel the boundaries of ours are within our mind. As long as we are within our mind, we can go close to the divinity, and then we can realize that that's what is the where we can recognize the divinity and all.
Yeah.
As long as we are outside our boundary, we play games, but it is not a win. So we will not reach anywhere. And we
So
don't recognize it. That's what I feel like. That's what, as long as we stay outside of the boundaries, then we don't do
boundaries of what?
By
our mind,
outside of
our
our
mind. Like, see, always we think outside, like, okay, we being in the exterior world, materialized world, and all those things. That's where
Ah,
you have to come inside to our mind, and
yeah.
deep inside it, go inside.
Yeah.
Inside journey will give you bring you that.
Awareness of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to, by boundary, what I understood from what he meant is the materialistic thing.
Yeah.
So if going outside the boundary means being materialistic, playing within the boundary is being spiritual. So, but I think there should not be any boundary. That is what we should aim for. So if there is no boundary, then always you are playing within the boundary, which is the yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shobha, go on.
So, Sairam, that is very true. Everyone's pretty much said the same thing. Even Lord Krishna says the same thing in Bhagavad Gita, right? Because in chapter 11, he gives his, mm, darshan to Arjuna,
Ishwaru.
because Vishwarupa darshan. But before he does that, he tells Arjuna, you cannot see it with this, with the regular eye of your body, right? You can only see it with your Gnana Chakshu, which is wisdom eye. So that is the wisdom of going inwards, like he said it in a different way. But so you have to develop that wisdom. Only then you can see the divinity in every moment, every day of your life. So we have to develop that wisdom to see it. Otherwise, it will be just a pragmatic, practical, oh, this happened, that happened. The people cannot see it without that wisdom.
Yes.
Saira, I would like to say also that, I mean, maintaining a positive attitude, you know, gratitude is probably one way by which we can develop habit of, feeling that. So never focus on what you didn't get, focus on what you got. And I think that will help a lot in focusing on that.
Yeah, Saira.
No, see, Sairam, see, when something in the materialistic aspect, if something negative happens, for example, we meet with an accident. So at that time, to realize or to recognize that it's good for me is difficult. But I think that is what we need to train, because when we are joyful, when we are everything goes in our way, to say it is, for example, we get up, I mean, we have to thank, because getting up is not within our control, as you said. I mean, we need to thank, because that is because of the grace we are able to get up. But even when something negative happens to us, we have to think that it is good for me. Maybe it is a training ground for something that will help us in the future. We don't know. So I think that is the total, that Sharanagati, as Swami has explained, is that when anything that happens to us is good for me. That is the attitude.
Yeah. Saira.
Yeah, that is true. You don't realize at that moment. But in my personal experience, both times the accident happened, one was about to happen. I'm not trying to boast or anything. I was new into Swami's fold. I was thinking of Swami only. I called out. I said, please, don't hurt the child. And I was heading there. It stopped within a hairline. I cannot forget that. Same, the second time also, I shared that too. I was thinking of Swami only. And I was worried about the other person who hit me. But nothing happened to that person or her child. Nothing happened to me also. Only on the right side it got hurt. I mean, the van was damaged completely. But why I'm saying it, that we always keep the Namasmarana or God's, presence in our heart. It helps. I'm sure it helped me. Some people may not believe that anyway. It may not happen that way, but it's better to believe that some higher power is with you. But only thing, we have to recognize it, we have to practice it. Practicing always helps.
I'm like kindergarten compared to you guys. So that's why I usually don't say anything. But um, so I'm sure lately, I work for the federal government, and every day is a different day. You never know whether we're coming or going. So I've started reading, obviously, on top of the chanting of Gayatri, I've started reading Gita Vahini because compared to everything that we've read, that is the one that has resonated the most with me. So, we're not supposed to talk about politics or religion or whatever at work, but some of us do, even though we have different faiths. And I don't know, some of you know John Matarino. He was this Italian man. He would come to our Thursday study circles. And he would always say to me, you cannot have faith if you have fear. And the last few days, like that's kind of the fine line that I'm walking. So then I have to remember in this life that I've had, because not going into details, but very specific details where life could have gone from a very young age without even knowing Swami, that I know now that he has been there. So, me and Sujata were talking as even coming here, just different things, right? Like people will say things, and one of the things that I was reading, and I may be going off, but it is the same thing because it's about Swami. That's what I want to talk about. So I'm still slow, and I think I'm in the 3rd chapter of Gita Vahini. So Swami talks about ego. So when we get upset, when fearful, all of this is right. So it's like a constant reminder. So bad things have happened, good things have happened, and so like Uma says, you just have to take it as it comes. So if something bad happens, in my mind, it could be bad, but maybe it's not. Maybe it was for the good. And so I think sometimes it's hard, like, Swami's been there, even before coming into the fold, because we believe in God, right? Just all of us are Hindus, we go to the temple, all of that, even though sometimes we didn't know what we were doing. So yeah, that's you know what I'm saying? You go with your parents, you go to the temple. I don't even, and then finally, at least now, when I go to the temple, I'm saying Gayatri, going around, at least I'm saying something, as opposed to just talking to God. Like, give me good grades, give me a good job, at least I'm saying something without just give. So the grace, right? That's the grace. The how we recognize it. How do I recognize it? Because of what has happened, everything. And so, like, moving forward, I just have to constantly remind myself. And maybe others are going through it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't have that. Or again, you all are like way ahead. Like, I talked to Sujata, she's just so awesome. Like, she's just like 1 minute, and then the next minute she's just all good. It's like, I'm like, I wish I could be like that, but I'm way behind. So that's the grace, like,
Yeah.
every morning I'm like, so I just have to say, okay, you've got me this far, you're gonna get me even further.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right? So I just wanted to share that because it's difficult to talk to other people that are not of your mindset or you can be open-minded about other people's faith, but they're so small-minded, as good of a people as they are. Like a conversation I had yesterday, which I won't get into. I told Sujata about it. And I was angry. Then I'm like, why are you getting angry? That's your ego. It's their ignorance that they think their religion is better. Like, why are you getting like all upset? You've got Swami. Swami believes in like everything, right?
Right.
So I have to constantly remind myself. So that's the grace. So
Absolutely.
maybe I've gone from kindergarten to maybe grade 1.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
that's the grace.
Savita. Thank you so much. Yes, please go ahead.
So, sorry, Sairam. So when talking about boundaries, we had a discussion that we have to live inside our boundaries. So I was reading this book by Swami. In that there is a pay. I mean, Swami mentioned that what is boundary? I mean, boundary is something that we bound. We are bounded to the outer world. Swami always says that bhandha vimochana, about that is, you have to eliminate yourself from being connected to the outer world. That is like, you have to keep yourself away from the naturistic things also. That's what Swami says. So boundaries, I mean, that's what we have to always, the uh, I mean, sorry, I'm fumbling. The thing which helps us to keep ourselves always in the inner spiritual thinking is, as we all know, namasmarana. That is only the thing in any namasmarana. Swami mentioned it clearly. So if you practice that in a very regular and moral way, you will be in yourself, which you will see the results of you being bounded to the outer world and you being bounded to yourself. And bounding ourselves to us is more important to achieve that level of grace. And again, yes, I also have lot. And sometimes when you have grace, you will have answers also. The same car example happened with me. I shared, I mean, with Venkat sir a lot earlier. I'll cut it short. uh, I bought a car. This is my life's first car. When I was in Chicago, I bought that. For some reason, it got, I have to sell it for scrap, literally scrap, for $300. So that the demolisher, he asked me, "You have any valuables in car?" Yes, I have one valuable. I went to the, I don't know the terms of car also. I went to the, what is that? Dashboard, and I picked out Swami's photo. I have in that, and it came. And then later on, while doing namasmara and everything, I said to, like, you have so many cars, you are coming to darshan, you made me sell my car to scrap. You once come in a white car, you come in a red car, that is your wish, but you made my car sell to scrap. And that day, you don't believe, I got a dream. Me hitting a car with a car in a road, snow road, to a tree. And I was on the other side, my car was on the other side, rolling out on the road, and I was laying on the road. That is the dream. And when I woke up, and that is the answer I got. That is the grace I got. So, and I accepted that. So acceptance, Sharanagati, is the main thing that we need to set ourselves, to lead ourselves into the inner boundaries.
Yeah.
That's what I want to share.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always.
Uh, Taking what Savita ji started forward, we, sh- we should congratulate all of us that we are sitting here in the lotus feet of Swami. We are so lucky. We are so lucky. We are the cream chosen by Swami to come and sit here and listen to the teachings. Uh, no one, it might seem that someone is in the third grade, fourth grade, or kindergarten, but we are all, number one, very lucky and above the crowd. We should be happy about that part. And, once we have reached this level, we definitely are the destined one and the lucky ones to reach where we are supposed to. So never we should feel that someone is ahead of us or behind us, or we are behind, or no, we are all good, very good. uh, Out of this million people over here, very few are moving in this direction. So we are all lucky, and we should congratulate the whole group in that way. That's one part of it. The whole thing is to get that Gyan Chakshu. Gyan Chakshu is that wisdom. Having the having the vision of Krishna, the Vishwarupa, which he showed to everyone, what difference did it make to anyone? I want to understand. I mean, did it make any difference to anyone?
I don't
Looking
know.
at a good picture, looking at a good view, looking at a Virat Sharira, what the whole, they were like 18 lakh
Worlds.
people in the war ground. What benefit did they get out of the whole thing? Everyone saw that. But did
No,
they
I don't
get
think
anything?
everyone saw it.
Or no? Or
I know.
few saw it. Okay. Whoever saw it, Arjuna saw it. So Arjuna saw it? Okay. So what did he get out of it? Exactly.
He got scared.
So what is important is the Jnana Chakshu, is the wisdom. Looking at all these big things, what are we getting out of it? Getting is the wisdom. Unless you get the wisdom out of it, it's not going to. After looking at it, his was his agyanta went away? Did the agyanta
Ignorance.
went away?
Ignorance.
Ignorance went away? No. He still kept arguing. He still kept questioning. So looking, what I'm trying to say is, all these things are still visual things. Unless we get the wisdom out of it, we are not going to reach anywhere. He kept, this happened, I think in 11th chapter, maybe, Vibhuti Yoga, 11th chapter.
So
But
what we have to remember is that was a moment only through the wisdom he could see the Lord. Once the wisdom goes away, the Gnanachaksha goes away, he's back. That's why he questions.
No, it was the mercy of Lord. Okay, let's
No,
not.
that's true.
It
That's
was
true.
the mercy of Lord. It was not the wisdom. The mercy of Lord was Krishna showed. Krishna gave him the Gyan Chakshu for that time. So it was. So it was the mercy of the Lord, and he saw it, and then it went away. So that was just an example of it. He got a vision of it temporarily, but did his ignorance go away after that? He he continued to ask those questions even from 11th chapter till the 18th chapter, and kept arguing on that. So looking at that is just a, a small trace of it. The wisdom from inside has to evolve from the sadhana, has to get that Gyan Chakshu to understand that Virat Swarup also, to what exactly he wanted to show. That's where I wanted to lead the conversation. So just by looking at it, it might not be of that benefit for long term. It will give you a transient pleasure, transient goodness, transient Jnana Chakshu for that thing. But how long can we stay in that mode of Jnana? Shobhaji wanted to answer
So,
that?
yeah, I will answer that because see, by the end of chapter 18, actually, in even before that, Arjuna understands, but most people think it's by the end of 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita that he's completely, got that wisdom. He'll go back to the war, he'll fight, he'll do his duty and all that. So, the reason I quoted that one in chapter 11 is unless you have the wisdom, you cannot even see the God, not
the
about just
grace.
the Rupam, God Himself.
Yeah.
The recognition will not come. So Krishna goes on coaching him because he just he asks Arjuna asks Krishna to show him. So he says, you cannot see with this eye, you need the wisdom eye. He shows him and then he goes back, right, to his usual. And the next chapters are all about teaching the jnana. He teaches so many things, right? By the end of that, he gets part of it, not completely also, part of it. So that is the sadhana for all of us.
So
Is learning and developing that wisdom to even recognize the grace of the God. That is the journey we have. That was the point I was trying to
Yeah,
make.
yeah.
Not that momentary darshan was
Correct.
not the point,
Yeah.
but that's how.
Yeah. How so just coming down. So I think I have a question here. Which one was it? I think it's the fourth one. How can we develop and sustain that sincere yearning? That's yearning, right? For the spiritual wisdom. You have to yearn it. Otherwise, it was not going to come on its own.
Yes. See, when this story, the 17th chapter whole reading was going on, I really enjoyed it. All the details, the way they even Ramayana, when we were doing it, it just like makes you feel so happy and delighted to hear the stories of the Lord and stuff, right? That's one way to keep the yearning going because what happens, you listen to it, you get immersed, you get more interested, you want to learn more, you want to do more. So that's why nitya, every time but not completely focused on reading alone. Read, learn, and then do sadhana. Sadhana has to be more than the reading part. That's what Bhagavad Gita has said. Actually, he said it. So that the one way of doing it is namasparana, learning about God, learning about these tales, gives you that joy, and keeps it going.
That exactly I was wanted to reach what Shobhaji just mentioned. Sadhana is the key of it. Without that, everything else will just end up to be a story and talking. Without that, they would be not reaching anywhere. Krishna gave that Gyan Chakshu for that moment to see him that all these people are basically all dead. All dead. You are just being chosen to have that action. That's it. That was the whole idea of showing that thing. So how to sustain it? You see it once, that visual thing is once is something, but how to have a continuous, that's that, what is that called? Continuous
Yeah.
integrated awareness. That exactly is so constant. Yeah, constant. So to stay in that mode is that sadhana, training your mind to stay in that mode, training that you might not just one, you see it, Lord, and you're happy, and then you go back to your continuous awareness, integrated awareness. And that will come only with sadhana, only with training, only with practice, nothing beyond. Yeah.
Uh, on the same lines, like if Arjuna has been given a chance of that momentary Vishwarupa, he saw that thing. But did Arjuna continue that constant awareness? Why did he failed that way? Because if he knows like, okay, my God is next to me, but he never continued. When he died also, Dharmaraja said, because his karmas are all different.
Correct.
That's why
Exactly
he went
I
through
was
that.
just
that- So I feel like continuing that constant momentum is not that easy, or like even to the gods on.
yes.
So it is true, it is hard, but we have to do it. Why do we have to do it? This actually, in Vasishta Yoga, it was clearly said. You bring all your karmas from the past lives, but you have a chance during this life to negate the karmas. So you think of the bad karmas that come with you as negatives and the positive one in the good karmas as positives, right? And if there's a lot of negative karmas dragging you into the negative side behaviors, whatever, this life is an opportunity for you to do the positive karmas and increase the positives and remove some of the negatives. That's the only way to keep on decreasing the minuses so much so that nothing is left. That's the ultimate, you merge with the Lord. That's one way of thinking, very simplistic way of thinking. But in Vasishta Yoga, it was clearly said, do not think that things, whatever are meant to happen, will happen. Yes, they will, but you also have a chance to negate them or remove them. So we have to remember that. Otherwise, there's no point in doing anything. Anything will, whatever is going to happen has happened. What do we have to do? Why do namasmarna? Why do anything will happen? Anyway, it will happen, right? So we should not go into that way of thinking.
Either.
We have discussed it in the past also, that people take that escape route always. Oh, Prabhu has done that. It is already set up. We are just puppets. No, we have the opportunity. We are not just puppets. We have the opportunity to change the destiny. We have the opportunity to change our karmas and our prarabdha. We have this opportunity. This is the ultimate moment for us. And just wanted to take his point ahead. Arjuna saw Lord once, that's Vishwarupa. In Vedanta, we understand it every day. Whenever we do meditation, we do get the same darshana. It's, whenever we are in that mode, we do get, it's not that sargun sarupa, but if you practice with the meditation, and are we not getting that darshana? We have to practice by meditation, and we will get it. And we do get the same, that that bliss which we get by meditation, that itself is Lord. It's not nothing else.
Saira.
There is in Mundaka Upanishad, there is a small story that this farmer was walking and he saw there is a tree fell down, there was a nest, and there is only one egg in that. He thought he would save the egg and brings it home, keeps the egg among the chickens, and then it hatches. It is an eagle, chicklet. So eaglet, and it grows with the chickens, pecking on the floor, eating grains, and its size is bigger, but it thinks it's a chicken because it doesn't know. It doesn't fly at all. So it's just pecking and very happy among the chickens. And then this sadhu comes once, and he saw this, and he said, "What is this? This eagle is, going around with the chicken." And the story is called the bird which forgot to fly. So he takes pity on the eagle and says, "This is not your place. You are not supposed to be pecking around like this. You are supposed to fly, soar to the heaven. That is your nature. Why are you doing this?" And then he takes it and put it on the roof, and the eagle looks down and falls down. He doesn't try at all. And then he is very determined, the sadhu, to take the eagle and make it fly. That is his.
So
Then he takes it.
that's called
So
the self-realization.
that he takes it to the forest, and he stands on a hill and say, "Go, eagle, you have to fly, go." It just flaps and falls down, and it is refusing to go. So like that, he tries and go to the highest, and then finally he throws it out and it flaps and then it soars. So what is the moral behind it is we are like that. We are just pecking around different things and wasting our, not realizing our full potential, what we are capable of. So the soul is compared to the ego. The soul is bound by all these material things, like you said, bound by all this in this earth. So once we realize the divinity within us, and then we can soar like the ego, then we remove the ignorance. So that is the thing.
Saira.
That's good.
Yep.
So that's what the Guru does to Shishya by giving that Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, is making you realize, reach that you are that ultimate. And so that's what Guru does to the Shishya. And that's the self-realization, which Sabitaji mentioned few classes ago. Realization. Not training, is realization. By understanding and realization that you are that same Brahma Tattva.
All right. I think we are at time. So we will stop here. We will continue with chapter 18 because this is pretty much the same story that continues, life of Parikshit and so on. So we will come down to discussing all of these values over again when we go through different chapters. And so from next chapter, we will next session we'll move on to the next chapter. Where I also want to remind everyone that we do have our Gayatri chanting at 9 o'clock, and we will be online. So with that, we'll end with Om and three Shantis. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all for participating today. Jai Sai Ram.